evening. The time is now 7 o'clock. I will call the January 26th meeting of the Millcreek Township Board of Supervisors to order. Would you please join me in the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being televised live online via Go Live at youtube.com, which can be accessed at Millcreek Township, /meetings, and recorded by WQLN for viewing on Spectrum Channel 1024 and youtube.com with closed captioning. Members of the public may attend in person in the General Assembly Room. However, total occupancy is limited to 25 persons and masks are required. Persons who wish to offer testimony at any hearing or to offer comments during the public comment portion of the meeting, but who do not wish to attend in person, must contact the Township Secretary, Cheryl Williams, at 814-833-1111, no later than 24 hours before the scheduled meeting to make arrangements to participate via telephone. With that, the first item on our agenda is public comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning applications. Would anyone care to address the board regarding this evening's agenda? Hearing none. Next item is approval of the minutes. First is, I'll need a motion to approve the organizational meeting of January 4th, 2021.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Ouellette?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next, the approval of regular meeting minutes from January 4th, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Ouellette?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is the approval of the bills. Is there a motion to pay the bills?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Ouellette?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is bids and quotations. First is the Shoreline Project Change Order Number 3 from the Planning and Development Department. Mr. Waldinger.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. This is a change order for the Shoreline Project. This is change order number 3. It's comprised of 2 additional items of work. The first is $5,647.07 because when the workmen jackhammered out the fillet at the bottom of the wet well, they discovered some unexpected soil conditions that needed some additional work in order to stabilize the new bottom of the wet well, and that amount covers that work. There's also an additional $7,000 for 20 additional pier blocks that have been used to stabilize the bank to the south of the station where the excavation was causing some erosion issues, and they dealt with the property owner there and were able to stabilize that area with these additional blocks. So in total, change order number 3 is in the amount of $12,647.07, and the Township Engineer, Ann Sokol, recommends approval of this change order.
Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Waldinger, is this increase still within the budget for that project, or do we need to have a budget amendment as well?
Let me take a look here. Yes, there is still a remaining balance to the original budget from the project. There's still an additional $54,000 from the original estimate left.
Okay. All right. There's no further questions from the board. Is there a motion to approve change order number 3 for the Shoreline Project for an increase of $12,647.07?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Ouellette?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is a backhoe from the Public Works Department. Mr. Snyder.
Good evening, gentlemen. Streets Department is seeking permission to purchase a Caterpillar 420 backhoe from Cleveland Brothers Caterpillar for $108,700 under CoStar's contract number 44000199950. This is a capital budget item. $110,000 was budgeted for the backhoe. The backhoe came in at $108,700, leaving $1,300 in reserves. We are seeking to order this item now because of the lengthy delivery time. Nothing is going to be delivered until at least April. So it would be my recommendation to purchase the backhoe from Cleveland Brothers Caterpillar for $108,700.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Any questions from the board?
No, sir.
Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the purchase of the backhoe from Cleveland Brothers for the price of $108,700?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is a Ford F-350 pickup from the Public Works Department. Mr. Snyder.
Yes, the Traffic and Electrical Department is seeking permission to purchase a 2021 Ford F-350 4x4 pickup with utility body from Laurel Auto Group Incorporated for the CoStar's purchase price of $59,245 under contract number 025-043. This is a capital budgeted item. We budgeted $57,635. The vehicle came in at $1,610 over budget due to the new year cost increase. We would like to make up the difference by taking the $1,610 out of the traffic shelving budget, which would leave them $18,390 in the shelving budget.
Any questions from the board?
No.
Mr. Krzyzewski, just to clarify, the shelving is in the operating budget, correct? Or is it in the capital budget?
It was capital budget.
I'm pretty sure it was the capital budget,
All right.
plus they already got another, because it's Public Works, they've got the excess from the backhoe too, so.
Right. All right, well, is there a motion to approve the 2021 Ford F-350 pickup truck for the total cost of $59,245, and also allocating additional $1,610 from the shelving line to this line to purchase the vehicle from, what was it again, Gary?
Laurel Auto Group.
Yeah, what Gary said. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next is an enclosed trailer from the Public Works Department. Mr. Snyder.
Yes, this is also traffic is seeking permission to purchase an enclosed trailer with a GVW of 9,990 pounds. This will be used as a work trailer for loop installation, road cuts, and replacing cabinets. The quotes we received are as follows. J&J Trailer and Equipment, $9,239.09. Boyer RV Center Incorporated, $10,019. And McCandless Trailer Sales, no quote. This also is a capital budget item. The budgeted amount was $10,000. The actual cost being $9,239.09. Leaves $760.91 in reserves. And it would be my recommendation to purchase this from J&J Trailer Equipment for $9,239.09.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Any questions on the board?
I have a question. Gary, is this replacing a trailer or adding to the
It will be
complement?
replacing it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, is there a motion to approve the purchase of an enclosed trailer from JJ Trailer and Equipment for the price of $9,239.09?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and I'll second.
All right, Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item, the Sun Valley Station Pump. Oh, that sounds pleasant.
Okay. Sewer Department is seeking permission to purchase a new pump for the Sun Valley Sewer Station. This would replace an existing pump which can no longer be rebuilt. We'd like to purchase the pump from Miller Pump Supply under CoStar's contract number 0000541212 for the amount of $8,282.65. In the sewer revenue budget, under machinery and equipment, we have a budget of $165,500. The pump being $8,282.65 would leave us a balance of $157,217.35. It would be my recommendation to purchase this pump from Miller Pump.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Any questions or comments from the board?
I have a question. Where is the Sun Valley Pump Station?
Sun Valley Pump Station is over on Kohler Road in Bell Valley.
Kohler?
It's just north of the railroad tracks.
Okay. Didn't know that. How about you?
Of course I do that.
Set myself up. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. I bet Dan knew that.
Yes, he
Dan
did.
always knows that stuff. Anything with sewer.
Next item on the agenda is used items for sale from the Public Works Department.
Yes, we're seeking permission to advertise for bids. We have several pieces of equipment and a few trucks and a police car or two. So they're seeking permission to be able to advertise that and receive bids for those.
Just for clarification, these are posted in the newspaper? Are they posted on a website somewhere? When we notify the public to come make bids? This is
They're
really-
generally notified in the news, they're put in the newspaper and
Okay.
also on our website.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board?
Some quality items here.
I mean,
The really.
Township estate sale is going to go well.
If you're interested, I wouldn't wait long on these items.
Yeah.
Really good stuff, especially the wood
Should we
chip.
put signs up on like telephone poles and stuff so people know? Yard sale.
Don't use tacks or nails.
Those would be illegal signs?
What?
Well, sure, if anyone else did it. Okay, enough joking around. Is there a motion to approve the request by the Public Works Department to advertise for the 20 items to be advertised for bid for sale?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Buck?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Next is ammo and supplies. I'm assuming that's not you, Mr. Snyder.
It is not.
Okay. Whew. Mr. Bach, would you like to handle this request?
I'd love to. This is exciting. Chief Scott Height is requesting approval for the purchase of ammunition and supplies from Whitmer Public Safety Group for $14,119.10. The balance in the account for that is $26,000 after purchase, leaving a balance of $11,880.90. This is various ammunition that's used for qualifications and some less lethal, it looks like, for the SWAT team. And this needs to be ordered ASAP, as there's a extremely, similar to some of the equipment, there's an extremely long turnaround time for this type of item. So in order to have this ready for their spring qualification, they want to get this ordered now. I'll put that request in the form of a motion.
And I'll second.
Mr. Bach, is this just a routine purchase of ammunition and supplies?
Yes, yeah, it's some rifle ammunition and then the 9mm ammunition that is used for their newly purchased within the past year or two, the Glock handgun. So yes, this is standard to bring them back up for their ammunition supply.
All right, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item on our agenda is a public hearing on a conditional use request from Citadel Development for conditional use application in the traditional neighborhood development overlay district to construct 14 single-family dwellings with associated landscaping and stormwater management facilities in the C2 General Commercial District located along the south line of West Lake Road and north line of West 12th Street. Gentlemen, we received a letter from the developer requesting that this item be tabled indefinitely. I guess my question to Mr. Waldinger and to Mr. Shaw is, I imagine we have folks present who would wish to still provide testimony at the public hearing for this item. So should we open the public hearing and then recess it indefinitely, Mr. Shaw, or how do you recommend we proceed?
I would suggest to accommodate the folks that did appear, who would not have obviously known that that the request was made, that we accept the testimony, have the hearing from that perspective, and then recess it indefinitely until they decide to pick it back up.
Okay.
I would note for the folks here that when this is reestablished, there will be, I think, a new notice, and you would have an opportunity at that time to also speak. So if you don't speak tonight, you'll have another opportunity when the hearing is picked back up.
But all comments made tonight will be recorded for the record and will be helpful for the board. Mr. Waldinger.
Just would like to also point out that the developer did request the extra time so that they could address feedback provided by the Planning Commission. So there is the possibility that the plan may be different when they do present it in the future. But as Mr. Shaw said, everyone that was previously notified will be notified of the new hearing date.
Okay. With that, is anyone representing the developer present this evening? Okay. If anyone else in the audience would like to address the board regarding this project, please step up to the podium and state your name and address, and we will proceed with the hearing. Okay. Mr. Shaw, do you recommend we recess the hearing or close it and then?
I would at this point, since no one testified, treat it as though the hearing did not occur at this stage, and then simply proceed with the motion to table it indefinitely until we receive notice that they're ready to proceed.
Okay. Is there a motion to table this agenda item?
I'll make that motion to table it.
Is there a
And
second?
And I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next on our agenda is Resolution 2021-R4, a resolution pursuant to Resolution 2015-R20 and the Municipal Records Manual to approve proposed disposition of certain township records. And this evening, the only records that we'll be voting to dispose of will be MPD, Millcreek Police Department dash cam videos, which reached their required retention period date between the dates of January 27th, 2021 and February 9th, 2021. Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2021-R4, authorizing the police department to delete the dash cam videos when they reach their retention period date between those dates?
I'll make that motion, John.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 2021-R5, a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Millcreek Township to implement provisions of Act 15 of 2020 relating to 2021 property tax relief. Mr. Shaw.
Yes, this relates to the timing of the property tax payments. Earlier this month, the Erie County Council had adopted a resolution to eliminate tax penalties if individuals pay their real estate taxes in full by the end of this year, December 31 of 2021. They also have urged all the other municipalities within the county to follow suit and afford that property tax relief, such that the township would waive any fees or penalties associated with the late payments of any tax imposed on the assessed value of real estate, provided that the taxes are paid in their entirety by December 31 of 2021. So this resolution would have the township adopt the same policy that the county adopted. Part of the rationale is that the tax bill for the county and the township go out on the same bill.
Any
So it
questions?
also helps avoid that confusion.
Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Mr. Shaw, just for my clarification, is this extending the deadline for 2020 taxes as well into 2021, or is this just authorizing for 2021 new taxes?
This is
Or
just
also-
related to the 2021 taxes. The 2020 taxes should have been paid on December 31 of 2020.
Okay, thank you. With that, is there a motion to approve Resolution 2021-R5?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is Resolution 2021-R6, a resolution to substantially amend Millcreek Township's fiscal year 2020 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan to incorporate the CDBG COVID Round 2 funding. Mr. Waldinger, would you care to tell us what that means?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, as you mentioned, this is to amend our CDBG action plan for fiscal year 2020. This is our second amendment to that action plan, and both amendments have been to add the distribution of CARES Act funds that the township has received through the CDBG program. This resolution increases the township's amount of CDBG funds for fiscal year 2020 by $393,543, which is the amount of the second round of CARES Act funding that Millcreek has received. This new round of CARES Act funds will primarily be distributed through the Greater Erie Community Action Committee, GCAC. They will receive $375,862 for an emergency mortgage, rent, and utility assistance project. This effort will assist as many as 56 low to moderate income township families that have been affected by the economic impacts of COVID-19 and are behind on their rent, mortgage, or utility payments. The remainder of the funds, $17,681, will go to the Erie County Department of Planning and Community Development as a fee for administering our CDBG program. The GCAC project will be vital in helping impacted Millcreek families weather the pandemic, and I wholeheartedly recommend that the board pass this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Waldinger. Any questions or comments from the board?
None here.
I guess I'll just, in case anyone out there is confused by the alphabet soup that was just presented from federal funding sources, essentially, the federal government issued funds to the township that can only be distributed for very specific uses related to COVID-19. The board did open up an application window for folks to present projects to the township for consideration for how these funds could be used, since we can't use them for typical township operations. And I guess GCAC was the recipient selected to help low-income families in Millcreek Township. I guess my question for you, Mr. Waldinger, is do we know how folks might be able to apply for those funds? Has GCAC described that process yet, or?
They did in their application describe the process. It's going to be through their phone line. And I don't know if I want to give the number right now. I guess there's no harm in it. 814 Shelter is their program. They'll take applications through there. I don't believe that they are up to speed at the moment to take Millcreek applications, but I'm sure they could answer more questions there if they needed to. As we get more information about when the program will be available to Millcreek residents, we'll make sure that we get the word out through the press and through our website.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mulder. With that, is there a motion to approve Resolution 2021 R6?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item on our agenda is a conflict waiver request. Mr. Shaw.
Yes, this is a request from our firm to allow us to assist the township with respect to the next item on the agenda relating to the loan programs. The other party that's assisting the township, the Erie County Redevelopment Authority, is also represented by McDonald Illig, and so we need to have a conflict waiver signed so that we can proceed.
Any questions or comments from the board?
None here.
Okay. I mean, this is a pretty routine item for just the fact that you represent both parties, and we're both comfortable with you doing that.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the waiver request as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 2021 R7, a resolution to create the Millcreek Township Small Business Relief Loan Program and the Millcreek Township Business Development Loan Program, and to appropriate an amount not to exceed $2 million for these programs, and to enter into an agreement with the Erie County Redevelopment Authority to operate and manage these loan programs on behalf of Millcreek Township. Gentlemen, as you know, we've been in discussions with the Redevelopment Authority for a few months now about how the township might be able to get more involved to assist small business owners in Millcreek Township, and also to help assist developers with large capital projects in the township. These kinds of programs are recommended on the Embrace Millcreek Comprehensive Plan, which noted that our township, as it's currently developed, is as a first-ring suburb, will likely need to have these kinds of public funding options and assistance options to encourage development in the township further. Also, as you're aware, our predecessors on this board elected to sell the assets of the Millcreek Township Water Authority, the Erie Waterworks, for a sum of $20 million back in 2015. In 2016, I was an advocate on this board to put those funds into an investment account and not to put those funds in the general fund budget, into the general fund, in order for us to keep those funds separate, to allow them to gain interest, and to have accountability that they would not just disappear into the general fund, but we would have opportunities like this to publicly announce how those funds will be dispersed and allocated. That investment fund has to date produced about $1.7 million in interest. There were also other funds from the settlement agreements with Erie Waterworks that brought the grand total of about $3 million in this fund, and that's not counting the principal of $20 million. So we do have about $3 million of just interest and other settlement funds in that account. And from our discussions, what we've come up with are these two loan programs. The first would be to assist small business owners in Millcreek Township, to offer them up to a $25,000 zero-interest loan to help them pay for about a full quarter of a year of mortgage or lease or utility costs, and allow them about 6 months grace period to pay back those loans. The logic being to help these small businesses make it through the winter, and then give them through the summer to hopefully get back on their feet and be able to pay back those loans. The other program is the Township Business Development Loan Program, which is a $500,000 program to assist with large capital investments. A lot of times, larger developments require gap financing to make up the difference to get these projects off the ground for shovel-ready projects. It's a program that the county and the city of Erie have been running successfully for over a decade now. And they utilize the professional expertise of the Erie County Redevelopment Authority, who reached out to us to offer to manage the same programs for us. So that's what this resolution is about. It's allocating the interest from the water sale proceeds to help small businesses in Millcreek Township and to help larger capital projects in Millcreek Township, and to partner with the Erie County Redevelopment Authority to manage those programs for us. So any questions or comments from the board would like to make regarding the programs?
Dan, go ahead.
No, I think this is an excellent way to reach out to the small businesses in the township and help them out, especially during these times where obviously it has affected many, many small businesses. And, part two of this program, working to help some of our local industries with capital improvement projects, and whether it's equipment or facilities, it just makes sense for the area.
Yeah, I like the fact that obviously it's staying right here in Millcreek, and if we can aid some of these businesses that were, in my opinion, hit with some pretty stringent restrictions that have really, hampered some of these businesses locally, and I think it's a good program, and I think there's enough safeguards in place that we're with the redevelopment authority and us, we're going to really vet these applicants, and there's very stringent requirements to apply for these funds, but I think it's long overdue in light of what's happened in the past year. So, and then moving forward, the other fund will also help businesses to expand and to just increase their presence here locally. So we're really looking forward to seeing what this brings to the businesses here.
Thank you, Mr. Bach. With that, is there a motion to approve Resolution 2021 R7?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
I vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. So just to let folks know, if any small business owners are interested in applying for this program, the Erie County Redevelopment Authority will begin accepting applications on their website, which is ecrda.net, on February 1st, this coming Monday. We will have the program guidance up on our website tomorrow morning for folks to start preparing to submit those applications. Applications for the Small Business Relief Program will be due by Friday, February 12th. And then a notification of award will be issued no later than February 19th for any interested Millcreek Township business owners. Next item is Resolution 2021 R8. The resolution amending resolutions, a lot of them, 2020 R37, R42, R54, R67, R71, to update and modify various township COVID-19 policies. Mr. Shaw.
Yes, thank you. Specifically, this amendment is to address two items. One is an update to the state of Pennsylvania travel policy. Some changes were made that adjusted the quarantine times from 14 days to 10 days. And so that's the first amendments that are found in Exhibit A. And then the second amendment relates to guidance from the CDC with respect to what to do if an employee has already had COVID and they have another exposure to someone who was believed to have COVID, whether they have to quarantine or not. Under the CDC guidance, as long as the exposure is within 90 days of when they had COVID, they do not have to quarantine. So it limits the amount of time people would have to miss work due to additional exposures to COVID if they've already had COVID.
Any questions or comments from the board?
So, Mark, so what we're voting on is strictly those two specific updates?
Correct.
Okay. That's the only question I have.
Any questions, Mr. Rowlett?
I have nothing.
So just to clarify, simply updating our policies to be consistent with the latest guidance? Mr.
Correct.
Sean? Okay. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2021 R8?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
I vote yes.
Mr. Rowlett?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is the BIU contract renewal. Mr. Waldinger?
Yes, thank you. This is renewing our annual contract with building inspection underwriters for code enforcement inspections. This is in addition to our code enforcement staff. They're there to help work on targeted areas or if there's an influx of complaints. This contract specifies that they would do that work on a per inspection and an as-needed basis. So, there's no fee unless we actually send them out to do inspections. This version of the contract also incorporates the inclusion of the fire code plan review and inspections as needed. That was added in the middle of last year, and it's been incorporated now into this base agreement. So I would recommend that the board approve this agreement with BIU for an additional year of code enforcement and fire inspections.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Matt, how do they bill us, or how is that? Is it per inspection?
It's per inspection, yeah, depending on the type of inspection. And again, that's only if we send them out on the inspection, and then we're billed for that.
Okay, thanks.
And the cost of those, their fee schedule is unchanged, Mr. Waldinger?
Yeah, there is no cost change from last year.
Is there a motion to approve the BIU contract renewal?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Rowlett?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is a rate to enter agreement at the address of 2706 Loveland Avenue for a temporary construction easement. Mr. Walton?
Yes, thank you. There is a 65-inch by 40-inch elliptical corrugated metal pipe that runs underneath Loveland Avenue just south of West 26th Street. The bottom of that pipe has rusted and rotted out, and it needs to be replaced before it fails. The engineer and her staff have been working with nearby property owners as the pipe actually extends beyond the bounds of the right-of-way onto the properties both to the east and the west. What's in front of you now is a right-to-enter agreement with the property owner to the east. He lives at 2706 Loveland Avenue. There is an easement for the existing pipe, but this is a larger area to allow us to do work around the pipe and what needs to be done to have it dug up and then replaced. So it is just a temporary right to enter to do that work. Once it's done and restored, we'll revert back to the original easement that we have.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Matt, do we know when this work is going to be taking place approximately?
Well, we've applied for the permit, so we're still waiting for the permit from DEP. It'll be done as soon in the spring as the weather permits, as long as we have a permit to do so.
Okay.
And it'll be done by township forces.
Okay, we're doing the work ourselves.
Yes.
Any further questions?
If I could, Mr. Chairman, Matt, I think it's actually to the west is this one. Because I don't believe we've gotten anything from the folks who own the east side.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, it's the west side. Yeah, thank you. This is for the west side property owner. We have not gotten anything from the east side yet.
So it is 2706
It is 2706, yes.
Is there a motion to approve the right to enter agreement with the owner of 2706 Loveland Avenue?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
I vote yes.
Mr. Rowlett?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item, the West 17th Street Detention Basin Emergency Action Plan. Mr. Waldinger?
Thank you. Yes, this would be for the board to authorize the chairman to sign the West 17th Street Detention Basin Emergency Action Plan. Emma George, engineer in planning and development, has been working on this plan with the DEP. It is required because the detention basin on West 17th Street is considered a dam. So we have to have specific emergency action plans if it were to ever breach and there were an issue downstream. Luckily with this facility, and you can see in your packet, the inundation area for it is almost entirely within the boundaries of the airport. It would be the far eastern end of the airport property, as well as a little bit on the Millcreek Township Golf Course. No homes or residences or businesses would be inundated if this were to fail. But anyway, this is a requirement of the DEP, and it is required that the chairman sign it so that it can be sent to them for their review. So I'd like to ask the board for them to give the chairman permission to sign this emergency action plan.
Thank you, Mr. Waldinger. Any questions or comments from the board?
Matt, is this an action plan that is done periodically or updated?
Well, this would be the first one for this. If you recall, that detention basin was originally the Riviera Estates. It was much larger before the airport reconfigured it when 20th Street and Marshall Drive went through. So this is the first plan for this new, but then it would require an update, just, contact information and things, I believe, every 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Is there a motion to approve the West 17th Street Detention Basin Emergency Action Plan?
I'll make that motion, John.
Thank you, Mr. Bach. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
I vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is a financial security reduction request from Premier Surgery Center, Project 2020, the developer. Mr. Waldinger.
Thank you. Yes, Project 2020 LLC is the developer of the Premier Surgery Center off of Zimmerly Road. They've requested reduction of their financial security for construction of the center. After review by the township engineer, you'll see that she has a certification there that she feels that the financial security can be reduced. Currently, the security stands at $138,271. They have requested a reduction to $31,916. Ann Sokol feels that that is appropriate for the work that remains. So at this time, we would recommend that Erie Bank Letter of Credit number 1623 be reduced to $31,916.
Thank you, Mr. Waldinger. Any questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve the reduction of security to $31,916?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item, Highmark agreements regarding COVID-19 vaccine and administration. Mr. Zakrzewski.
Yes, we've got a request from Highmark to allow the township to cover the administration cost for COVID-19 vaccines for our grandfathered, I'm going to get this wrong, I'm sure. Grandfather, non-grandfather, the grandfathered plans. The vaccine itself is paid for by the government. There's no charge to anybody that acquires any health service that acquires the vaccine. But there's an administrative cost to actually have somebody put it in your arm. And we have a variety of plans, primarily due to cover retirees that were not grandfathered, and so they were grandfathered, and they need to be, they wouldn't necessarily have the provisions to provide vaccines like this. And Highmark is looking for the township to opt into allowing those grandfathered plans to cover the administration cost for the vaccine. It would be the right recommendation to cover the administration costs. It's obviously a good thing to have our retirees, I guess, get the vaccine, and so therefore, and the cost is going to be approximately $25 per injection, based on the Medicare rates. I can't give you an estimate of how many people, because it would depend on how many total people are covered under the grandfathered plans. That could include retirees, spouses, potentially children, although at this point, I think most of the grandfathered ones wouldn't have kids on the plan. And then whether or not they actually get the vaccine. So there's a lot of variables that make estimating what the cost would be impossible.
Well, Mr. just to clarify, so this is not for current employees under our current,
No, because they were not granted.
I believe there are plans that already cover those costs that the township has, and then there are some plans that don't. I
okay,
think this is addressed to deal with the ones that don't.
okay, and we have two letters before us, an opt-in letter and a vaccine indemnity letter.
Yeah, and they go, well,
If you agree to opt in, you don't need to deal with the indemnity letter, only if you were opting out, and that was simply because they wanted to, I think, protect themselves of your decision to opt out, and if anything happened, relating to that.
Understood. Any additional questions from the board?
So if we don't opt in, that cost is passed on to the individual?
I believe so, and then that would also, they would want you to complete that indemnity agreement for that decision. Not with respect to if the vaccine caused any problem, but just the decision to opt out.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the opt-in
Okay, is there
component.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is an interagency agreement with the Children's Advocacy Center of Erie County. Mr. Shaw?
Yes, this is an agreement that I received from Chief Height to review, and it relates to an agreement that is I think, currently expiring between the police department and the Children's Advocacy Center of Erie County in order to set the guidelines for what the officers should do when they encounter complaints or issues relating to child abuse and maltreatment. This is an agreement that gets sent to, I think, all the various police agencies throughout the county, and it's my understanding that this Children's Advocacy Center creates guidelines for the various agencies to follow, depending upon the incident that may occur, gives them a kind of almost like a checklist of, okay, do this first, do this second, and so forth, and how to handle interviews and things along those lines. I think Mr. Bach is familiar with this.
Yeah, I see the list of agencies on here, and it's a very worthwhile organization. It's kind of a one-stop shop, if you will, where, children and workers, caseworkers and law enforcement can get together at one location, and it's really a help to victims of different crimes.
And it's at no cost to the township.
It's definitely a positive thing.
All right, any additional comments or questions from the board?
None here.
Is there a motion to approve the Children's Advocacy Center interagency agreement?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is the 2020 Annual Planning Commission Report. Mr. Puzz. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean Mr. Walding.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, at their meeting of
That's good.
January 7th, I believe, or I'm sorry, January 5th, the Planning Commission passed their annual report. I'm going to just briefly read the report, or at least the highlights of it. It goes through their activities that they took part in the year 2020. During the course of the year, they held all scheduled meetings. They heard, or reviewed and made recommendations on 12 small subdivisions, 6 land developments, 1 sketch land development plan, 6 rezonings, 2 conditional uses, and 1 ordinance amendment. They did make special note in their report on the passing of a longtime planning commissioner, John Police. They did note that he faithfully served the planning commission, originally appointed in May of 2002 until his passing in 2020. They note that he was well respected and provided his insight to many projects over his 18-year career as a commissioner, and that he will be missed. They do make some recommendations to the board that the township continue updating the zoning ordinance and the saldo to be consistent with the new comprehensive plan, that they update the zoning map and the future land use map as needs arise, and that they continue updating the official map for the township. And this was respectfully submitted by the commissioners and signed by Eugene Strohmeyer, chairman, and David Skelly, secretary.
Mr. Waldinger, any questions or comments from the board?
None here.
All right, thank you. The next item is the 2021 commission appointments. We do have a few vacancies on our board. First would be the vacancy for the Planning Commission alternate. Gentlemen, I would like to put forward Raymond C. Reed as an appointment to the Millcreek Township Planning Commission alternate position. Within the form of a motion.
I'll second that.
Mr. Bach,
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet,
I vote yes.
and I vote yes. We also have a vacancy on the Erie County Signing Region Trust Board of Trustees, which is administered by the Erie County Council of Governments. Currently, former Supervisor Brian McGrath serves as our representative on that board, and the Signing Trust would be just so pleased if we would reappoint their friend Brian McGrath back to their board. So I put that in the form of a motion.
Have they done a background check on Mr. McGrath?
I mean, I've advised them to do so. But
Okay, well, hopefully they did that, but I can vouch for him, but
yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So it's good enough for me.
I'll second that.
All right. Mr. Bach,
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet,
I vote yes.
and I vote yes. And I guess just to put out there, we also currently have a vacancy on our zoning hearing board as an alternate position. If any residents in Millcreek Township would like to contact the board to offer their services, we will be accepting letters of interest for that position. Again, it's a zoning hearing board alternate vacancy. Next item is communications. Treasurer Communications. Mr. Jakszewski, what do you have for us this evening?
Yeah, I've got the request for the PSATS conference, April 18th to 21st of 2021, assuming that it actually comes off. But we still need to get the approvals ahead of time. Attending this year's conference is Dan Olet as our supervisor. He's also our voting delegate to the conference, and also John Sylvester, PE from the Planning and Development Department, is attending the PSATS conference as well as the engineering conference. The total for the cost of the conference registration is $390. The engineering seminar is an additional $95. The hotel plus, with tax for the two persons is $1,351.98. Per diem for two is $332.50 times 2, which is $665, and mileage would be $694.40, making a total of $3,196 $1,038. And I would recommend that we approve the expenses for the PSATS conference at this time.
Thank you, Mark. You know, Jim, I'm looking at this.
Yeah.
I think it'd be only responsible for us to only authorize one hotel room. We could save $675 if Dan would just bunk with John. I mean, I don't know. By the way, is John being punished, Matt? Is that why you're setting him to PSATs? Did John mess up somewhere? Is that-
No, we try and rotate the engineers through the engineering conference.
Yeah, God bless him. All right. Any additional questions or snarky comments from the board?
I will say, Dan, you'll never be the same after a PSATS conference.
Looking forward to it.
I'm sure. It's
Great. It's a great time.
great experience down in Hershey.
I'm jealous.
Awesome.
Only we could all go, but alas, we only.
You should note, it's the 100th anniversary,
It,
so it's really big to do this year.
Oh, man. Big party for Dan. Oh. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the PSATS conference reservations and expense request?
so moved.
I will second. Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Roulette?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Safe travels, Dan.
Thank you.
Next is the MPD request. Mr. Bach?
Okay, our first request from Chief Scott Height. On December 21st, 2020, Officer Benjamin Steiner has successfully completed a one-year probationary period. Approval is recommended for Officer Steiner to be retained as a regular employee, Class D patrol officer. Chief is recommending that Officer Steiner be retained, and because of the one-year probationary period that he has successfully completed, he would thus become a Class D patrol officer. Put that in the form of a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Roulette?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. So the training request looks like Mr. Bach.
Okay, we have a training request from Chief Scott Height. This is for,
Maybe we should send Chief to PSATs.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. This is for 8 officers to attend the Ohio Tactical Officers Training Conference, June 6th through June 11th in Sandusky, Ohio. Travel would be by department vehicle. Total cost, registration, $3,040. Per diem, $2,464. Lodging, $2,400. Tolls and parking, $200. Estimated cost, $8,104. That leaves $5,064. Let's see, how did Chief do the math here? He doesn't have the balance in the training unless I'm missing something. He just has the total cost, $8,104. He doesn't say what the remaining balance in the training budget is, but I'll check on that. I know there's definitely enough in there to cover that.
Mr. Bach, if you
Yeah.
notice in his message, he indicates that the total costs have been approved for reimbursement by PEMA. So I think they all get reimbursed, and he's just indicating he'll pull certain amounts out of different accounts until that occurs.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, okay.
Well, Dan, we're getting reimbursed for this one. You want to go here instead?
I'd love to.
Okay,
Is there a
yes.
motion to approve the travel training request?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Roulette?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is a request from the Human Resource Office, requesting authorization to post and fill a vacancy for the Parks and Recreation Programs Coordinator position. Any questions or comments from the board?
No, sir.
Is there a motion to authorize the HR office to proceed with filling the vacancy?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is to just inform the public that the board did hold executive sessions on January 7th, 14th, and 21st of 2021 to discuss various legal and human resource issues with our executive team. Next item is solicitor communications. Mr. Shaw, do you have anything else for us this evening?
Yes, I have one item. At the Fire Commission meeting last Thursday night, the commission voted to recommend to the supervisors that they write a letter to the Erie County Dispatch Center requesting that the dispatch center ensure that the fire departments are being properly dispatched for ALS 1 calls. There was some concern that some calls may be getting missed. They just wanted to make sure that they were focusing on that, given the change that has occurred in terms of the types of calls. If you recall, we passed a resolution several months ago reducing the types of calls that the fire department should be going to, and they just want to make sure that, you know, the calls that were left remaining on the call list, that in fact that's still occurring. And in addition to that, they recommended that the board ask the dispatch center to add strokes to the list of ALS 1 calls that the fire department should be automatically dispatched for when that occurs in their area. And then lastly, there is some concern that when the EMS services get kind of overworked and are not immediately available, that the dispatch center dispatch the nearest fire department to respond to those calls until the EMS can make it to the call. And I drafted a letter along those lines for your review. If you approve, I'll get the letter finalized and pass it for your review one more time, but seek the authorization at this time to proceed. With respect to the EMS calls, the example that they were talking about is if the nearest ambulance that's responding is like at Hammett and has to respond to a call in Millcreek, it'll take them longer to get there because they're at Hammett. And so they're suggesting that when that occurs and it's an ALS 1 call, that the dispatcher should automatically dispatch the fire department to attend to that call until the ambulance could get there.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Gentlemen, I've read the letter, and I guess my question is, it seems that these issues will be better addressed by scheduling a meeting with the leadership of the dispatch center rather than issuing a letter. Do we know, have the departments or has the commission contacted the dispatch center to express these concerns directly or to explain what the concerns are? I mean, or Mr. Olet, I mean, you're much more versed with the emergency response services than I am, obviously. So maybe if you're comfortable with this, I understand. But when I read this, I'm not entirely clear on what directive we're asking the dispatch center to take. It would seem that this letter might be better served as a request for a meeting rather than a directive in some cases. I'm just asking for some clarity on that.
No, I don't disagree with you, but I do believe that, if you're going to do something like have a meeting, it should be in conjunction with something in writing. But this letter also adds the stroke protocol as one of the dispatch categories, which wasn't previously on the last request that we had sent up there. Also, it highlights the fact that, if an ambulance is going to have an extended ETA to an emergency within the township, that the nearest fire department go as a first responder until that ambulance can arrive. And sometimes that can be a lengthy ETA. So this kind of highlights that and addresses those concerns from the Fire Commission.
I guess administratively on that end, though, from a dispatch center, again, and I used to work in ours. do they actually know what the ETA, these ambulances are? Do they know the actual location of the ambulances? Would that kind of, making that kind of discernment actually, the delay response times to have them try and figure out where the ambulance currently is and then figure out where the nearest fire department is? I mean, does that?
No, because the fire departments that would be dispatched would be, within their own territory or their own, coverage area. And the ambulances, they know where the ambulances all are.
Okay.
And where they're coming from. And in fact, they announce over the radio where they're coming from
Okay.
when they are responding. So that helps in the whole process.
Well, again, if you're comfortable with the wording, I guess that, again, my only concern is that this seems like an issue that would warrant more of a discussion with the dispatch center to make sure everyone's on the same page rather than simply issuing a letter. And it wasn't. Do we know if the departments or if the commission have contacted the dispatch center to air these concerns?
We usually go this route, using the fire commission and then the supervisors for any dispatch protocol changes,
Okay.
so that it alleviates each chief from making calls up there.
Okay.
Which, could occur more often than probably should.
Understood.
Mr. Chairman, I will note that during the meeting, there was some discussion of at least them having some conversations with dispatch regarding some of the, regarding the issue. I don't disagree that maybe as part of this, we suggest that, a meeting be held, if they're, they wish to meet, and maybe the fire commission can appoint one or two chiefs to go meet with them to talk about, the issue that they think they're experiencing.
Well, I think if we add something at the end, just, because this is probably going to go to John Graffey, I'm assuming.
I don't have who it's going to, but I think that's probably who we end up sending these to.
All right. You guys comfortable amending the letter to make that kind of suggestion at the bottom?
Yeah, I've read the letter too. I'm okay with it.
As is, or to offer to meet with the dispatch center?
I'm okay with it as is. I don't disagree that, meeting with them, would be productive too. I guess it's just a matter of what order do you want to, do you want to do that in? Do you want to, send a letter and then request a meeting, or?
I mean, I think regardless, the protocol, the specific protocol changes, we have to do it by letter.
Right, with regards to the stroke.
And the ambulance
Yeah.
issue, but the response issue to the ALS ones for the fire departments, you could, maybe invert the order, talk about the two changes that you want, and then third say, we're also aware of this, they'd like to meet, or we could soften it a little bit. Because I don't disagree with John, Mr. Chairman, about, what exactly do we want them to do, but that's kind of the guidance I got, so.
Well, and again, if we actually have directives, those should be at the front. If there's a formal part to this letter of,
Yeah.
please change these protocols, that's what we start with, and then not bury the lead, I suppose.
Right.
So what motion would you like me to ask for, Mr. Shaw?
I would ask for a motion to approve the drafting and submission of the letter to the dispatch center, subject to, further modifications as discussed in this meeting. And then we also need to get public comment on that, since it wasn't a specific agenda item.
Absolutely. Is there a motion to submit the letter to be draft as
I'll
further
make
amended?
that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Thank you all for bearing with us during that conversation. Would anyone like to comment on the letter that the board will be sending to the Erie County Dispatch Center?
It's a very quiet crowd tonight.
Hearing none. Mr. Bob?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Mr. Shaw, anything further?
That's all I have.
Mr. Zakrzewski? No. Mr. Snyder? Mr. Waldinger?
Nothing further?
Ms. Williams? With that, We'll now open the meeting up for citizens to be heard. Would anyone care to address the board this evening? Please step to the podium, and if you wouldn't mind, please state your name and address. And is there a sign-up sheet up there, Cheryl, or is that only at the front desk? Okay, if you wouldn't mind signing up before you leave.
Jeff Swanson, 3218 Timber Lane. And we're basically here, a number of residents tonight, to ask that our street be put on this year's paving schedule. We've met with two of the supervisors in the past. The street condition is getting worse each day. It's basically been over 25 years since the street's been milled and paved. So we're just basically here to ask for your help, and if you need to meet with us to discuss this some more, we're all happy to do that. I don't know if any of the other residents want to make a comment, but that's basically what we're here for.
Thanks, Mr. Swanson. I remember meeting with you last summer, and I see some of the neighbors here also. I did get an email from Mrs. Moore about a day or two ago, and citing the same thing that same request that you're making here. Yeah, we're definitely going to be looking at your neighborhood, like a lot of other streets in the township, and we'll be deciding on that here sometime in the near future.
Well, I just want you to feel free to contact us at any point, because we're more than happy to meet with you. And we'd really like to see this go forward this year, because we've met with two of you at least over the last 3, maybe 4 years.
Right.
Just, nothing's moving forward, and we're just at the point where we're very frustrated, and we'd like to do whatever we can to help things move forward.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
I guess just to add to that, the board, we do a road tour, and there's about 210 miles of road in the township, and we try to look at everything objectively, and the last 2 years, we've really tried to hit kind of the worst roads in the township first, and we've been going down that list, so we'll certainly add that to our road tour this year, take a look at it. But I guess I'm not sure if there's anything else to add, Mr. Bach, on that. I mean, I know Mr. Bach and I have personally driven every single road in the township, and there's no mistaking that there are roads out there that need addressed, and we've been trying to pave about 10 to 12 miles a year.
Mm-hmm.
This past year, we authorized, typically we fund our street paving through our state allocations of liquid fuels, which is a state grant that every township receives. And the last few years, we're able to actually apply for an additional mile of paving from federal funds. And this year, allocating about, it was $500,000 of additional.
$750,000.
$750,000 of additional township dollars to try and enhance our paving program. So we're hoping to get a lot done this year, and we'll certainly add that to our list. And I can't recall off the top of my head how we scored that road when we drove over, but I can certainly look that up and let you guys know, or show you how it scored out compared to other roads. So.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anyone else care to address the board?
Sherry Dacus, 3225 Timber Lane. And my question is, when you said you're going to be making a list, do you know when that will be? Like, what meeting will that be?
Well, typically we try and get out after the snow thaws to do a tour. We do cost estimating, and we have it is approved at a public meeting. Generally, what was it, Gary? Probably April or May is when the final list gets.
I believe it's April. Late April.
Okay, but it'll be publicly advertised on our agendas.
So if I wanted a list of all of the roads that have been done in the past, say 10 years, how would I get that? I just want to see if there's any repeated roads that have been done. So how do you get that?
I think we have that available, don't we, Gary?
We do.
And that would be where? Where do I go?
If you want to send any of us an email tonight, we can get you a list probably by the end of the week.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Well, if you have one, I think we're all familiar with the area, but if you'd like to provide us one. But I guess specify, ma'am, it doesn't require right-to-know requests or anything like that. If you just want to send email to either the general township email, Ms. Williams, what is that off? Is it just secretary at millcreektownship.com or? No, just send an email to the township.
Thank you.
Huh? Okay. Or if you want to send just to info@millcreektownship.com.
Is there a department, like if I just came here this week, is there a department I would go to get that list myself? Because, I mean, if I email, I don't know where that's really going to, so is there like a certain department that I can just get that from?
Mr. Snyder, you want to give your personal contact info before she leaves?
Thank you so much.
I'm confused about this map. It appears to be a address in the Asbury Road area.
Yes, this is about the Lester Lane Lawndale project.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
So
we're
we're
sorry.
shifting
We thought
gears
you meant
here.
this- we thought
This
you
is
meant
not
the-
Timber Lane, okay.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Would you please state your name and address for the record, ma'am?
My name is Kimberly Makowski, 4606 Asbury Road. I need help in understanding why we were included in the project. I've spoken to Mr. Wright, and we just can't understand each other. Millcreek wanted us off of our septics. Okay. In front of my house is the hookup. Millcreek wanted to lump us in with that project. So the pipes would have to come all the way to Asbury Road, which they don't. But I don't understand why I would be hooked into that project if I can go, I don't know how many feet, because I suck at that, 20 feet to hook up in Asbury. I just don't get it. And it's frustrating because I don't get it.
Ma'am, were you already connected to sewer?
Was I already?
You already, yeah. No? Okay. Are you now yet, or
Yes,
are you, okay.
out front,
Oh, you are out front,
yes.
okay.
Mr. Lett, I think I recall this issue. Is it a matter it's a different kind of main on Asbury? Is that what part of the issue is and why it couldn't be connected there, or?
I don't recall.
When they
I-
first put in the sewer lines up Asbury, we didn't know what they were. But we said, do we have to connect? And they said, no, not at this time. So we just had a new septic tank, so we're like, okay, good.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, the reason for not being able to hook into the Asbury Road sewer is that's a pressure line from a pump station. And we do not typically, unless it's a dire emergency, let anybody hook into those because there is a pump station attached to those. And if we have something catastrophic happen at a pump station or something like that, it could possibly push into the houses. So we don't typically let anybody tie into the pressure mains from the pump stations. So that was the reason. I remember when we first looked at this project, that was the reason for not being able to hook into that pressure main in front of her house on Asbury Road.
Then why did you leave me in the project?
That I don't know. I mean, you're still in that general area, so they weren't going to leave. I don't believe they wanted to leave one house that wasn't connected into the sewer.
But Millcreek was gonna charge me, rounded up, $18,000. I don't remember how much we paid to hook up in front, but it wasn't $18,000. I'm hooked up and I'm off my septic. So does it really matter where I hook up? If you could think about it at least, I'd appreciate it.
Oh, ma'am, I apologize. I mean, that this is a project that I don't have the details in front of me at the moment, and the project manager isn't in attendance this evening.
Right. But if you could all talk about it and let me know, I can't wrap my brain around it. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, well, I'll tell you what, after the meeting, if you wouldn't mind giving us some contact information, and we'll reach out to you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public this evening? Okay. Anything for good of the order, gentlemen?
No, sir.
Nothing here, no?
Okay. With that, is there a motion to adjourn at 8:20? Is
So moved.
there a second?
I'll second.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.